Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled presidents do have absolute immunity for their core constitutional powers. And former presidents have at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for other official acts. The opinion is on a case brought by former President Donald Trump. He's accused of criminal felonies for his actions around the insurrection on January 6th. NPR's Tamara Keith reports President Biden's campaign is responding with alarm.
The disbands presidential power and makes it easier for presidents to avoid accountability for their actions. Biden Deputy Campaign Manager Quentin Fuchs isn't mincing words.
They just handed Donald Trump the keys to a dictatorship.
Raising alarms about the dangers of a second Trump term is a key Biden campaign strategy. And Fuchs said the court's action puts a finer point on it.
He put justices on the court who ripped away freedoms from Americans and then gave him the freedom to do whatever he wants today. And I find that very ironic.
This all comes as Democrats are still reeling from Biden's lackluster debate performance last week. Tamara Keith, NPR News, Washington.
The national
It's not ironic. It's part of their plan. That's exactly what they want to do. Take more rights away from the working American and give it away to big business. So now big business is benefiting from all our sweat and tears.
That the damage would be so much. I just come to go for the shop to check on it, but now I realize it's much more than I thought.
Hurricane Beryl is forecast to strike the island of Jamaica as early as tomorrow, and it's expected to move toward Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Hungary's prime minister is on.
Then, big business is causing all of this adverse weather. I mean, they're destroying the planet, getting rich off it, laughing in our faces, causing the deaths of so many people. Death and destruction. All for what? We're not benefiting from it. Why are we allowing this stuff to go on? They need heavy regulation. Heavy regulation. Big business is causing global warming. If you don't believe it, look at the history. I guarantee they won't do a study of what things were like before the industrial age and compared to now. The depletion of everything has rapidly increased since the industrial age. When they started taking stuff out the ground, all of those things, oil, coal, even diamonds and gold, have thermal properties. Come on, people. That stuff was put there for a purpose. It was not just for you to get rich off of, and some of you, the mass majority of the planet, isn't benefiting. Only a few. And y'all sitting up like rats and roaches, fighting over the crumbs. It's ridiculous. We need to get it together, unite, and put an end to this. We really do.
Hold bad actors accountable, but a responsibility to do so.
Michigan Republicans say the charges against Trump were politically motivated. I'm Colin Jackson in Lansing.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer reaffirmed yesterday that she thinks President Joe Biden can win Michigan despite his lackluster performance in the first debate with.
Why is everybody calling his performance lackluster when the man did actually a bang-up job considering he was sick? How do you perform when you're not feeling well? This really shows how ignorant people are. They're so superficial, basing things on stuff that mean absolutely nothing. And then Trump looked like he got one foot in the grave himself. So anybody can say they feel fine, but actions speak louder than words. Huh? What's really going on? Don't fall for the monkey in the room. Huh? Look at the monkey. Look at the monkey. Don't fall for it. Do not fall for it. Biden showed you exactly what Trump was about. Nothing. in the debate. Trump ain't about nothing. All he did was rant and rave and talk a bunch of nonsense instead of actually saying anything that made sense. Neither did he say anything about doing anything for the working American. How about that? Huh? Yeah. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. That's what it's really about. Is Trump gonna do anything for the working American? No, you know he's not. So why would you support that guy? Makes absolutely no sense at all. You are being their monkey, their little pet, the new slave. Think about it. They're raising our taxes, lowering their own, and you're just clapping, so happy. More like sappy.
Comes from Sony Pictures Classics, presenting Daddy-O, starring Dakota Johnson and Sean Penn. A woman and a cabbie connect and engage in intimate and mysterious conversations during a taxi ride. Now playing only in theaters.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm E. Martinez in Los Angeles, California.
Citation.
Michelle Martin in Washington, D.C.
Citation.
A 6-3 opinion along ideological lines. The High Court ruled that former President Donald Trump has broad immunity from prosecution, all but ensuring that his trial will be delayed until after the November election, if it happens at all. Last night at the White House, President Biden criticized the court's opinion.
For all practical purposes, today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle. And it's a dangerous precedent because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
The court's opinions on this case and on abortion 2 years ago will likely be front and center in the upcoming election.
So joining us now to talk about all this is NPR senior editor and correspondent Domenico Montanaro. Domenico, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Michelle.
So how will the Supreme Court factor into this election?
Well, I mean, it's squarely in the center of it. First, the timing of this decision comes about 4 months until Election Day. The court waiting as long as it did to address the immunity question without any real urgency, it seemed, then release the opinion on the last day of the term and send it back to the lower court means that there's no chance voters will have a verdict to consider in the January 6th case against former President Trump before the fall. The court had already become a lightning rod for the left. The Dobbs ruling that overturned Roe 2 years ago has fired up Democrats and hurt trust in the court. Biden, with his remarks last night, was yet another indication, really, that Democrats are in many ways running against the Supreme Court now. But the court has really never been a top voting issue in presidential elections for Democrats the way it has for Republicans before. It was a major focus for Republicans for more than 50 years. You could argue that their political work and activism meant that they were ready for the moment when it came to reshape the court. Let's see if the threat of giving Trump broad immunity for official acts, essentially meaning he could use the powers of the office in whatever way he chooses, changes anything for the left, which has not been enthusiastic at all about voting for Biden.
Say more about how the Supreme Court's decisions in recent years has shaped the public's view of the court, which likes to see itself as above all this, as above politics.
Sure. I mean, they've been enormously consequential. Trust in the court has nosedived. Really, 6 in 10 disapprove of the way the court is handling its job. Our polling with Marist has found that 2/3 have little to no confidence in the court. But it's not just because of these controversial decisions. There have been ethics issues with the court's conservatives. There were calls for 2 of them to recuse themselves from this case because of their ties to the MAGA movement. They did not. There are really no checks on these justices who have lifetime appointments. They look increasingly out of touch, that rules don't apply to them, and
we need to revamp this whole government, every branch, because they all are fallacious. They're doing what they want to do. They're showing the American people that they don't answer to us. It's supposed to be we the people. Huh? They showing y'all what the deal is. When are you gonna wake up? When?
70. So next president could potentially get another 3 nominees. Imagine if Trump wins and is able to appoint younger versions of Thomas and Alito, 2 conservatives. That could set Democrats back another 20 years at the court, and that's now already setting social policy, for decades to come into the future.
That is NPR senior editor and correspondent Domenico Montanaro. Domenico, thank you.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, the Biden campaign insists the president is staying in the race after his bad debate performance. Democrats say Biden is the nominee unless he were to decide otherwise. He won his party's primaries, after all, and he's earned nearly all the convention delegates to the Democratic convention in August. Most of the party publicly supports him, though a few potential contenders are preparing just in case. Our co-host Steve Inskeep spoke earlier with CNN's Edward Isaac Dover.
What have they been doing the last few days?
Well, from the reporting that I've done, starting a couple minutes into the debate and nonstop since then, their phones have been filling up with text messages, emails, phone calls. I said to a number of them, did you get more or fewer than 300 texts during the debate? And most of them said more.
Wow.
And they're trying to figure out what it would look like to run a very, very strange campaign over a short amount of time, at most a couple of weeks, perhaps even just a couple of days during the convention in Chicago, and where their levels of support would be, who their potential competition really would be, and how to get a leg up over anybody else who's in the conversation.
I am remembering stories from many months ago about how at least one of these people, J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, who has a lot of money, was at least preparing, wanting to be on the bench and ready. Are there a lot of these potential contenders who had previously thought through scenarios like this?
Well, it's people who have thought through it before and people who are thinking it through now. I don't think that we have too mysterious group of names here. It would probably have to be a person with a pretty large and sophisticated operation already, people around them who know what to do, and at least some level of awareness, name identification among the delegates who would be at the convention, but also beyond that. Whitmer, Pritzker, Gavin Newsom, California, Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, Raphael Warnock, the senator from Georgia, maybe some of the newer governors like Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. That is where the thinking largely is.
Does Vice President Harris have any built-in advantage?
Vice President Harris is the one who has the most advantage going into this, if this is what is actually going to happen, for a number of reasons. If Biden were to step aside, many people think it would be very difficult for him to not tap a successor, and for that successor to not be Kamala Harris. Also, she would have a lot of resonance, presumably among black voters and women voters, because she is the first black and female vice president. And it seems like many people assume that the feelings of trying to pass her over would be politically fraught. Some people that I have spoken to, including Donna Brazile, the former chair of the DNC, said to me, using a profanity that I won't put to your listeners here, how are all these white people going to get ahead of Kamala? And there is also an important thing that she would have access to, which is the money and infrastructure of the Biden campaign, because importantly, it's not actually the Biden campaign, it's the Biden-Harris campaign, and therefore she could take over everything that exists right now, including all that fundraising that they've done illegally without it being an issue. Anybody else would have to figure out some way of transferring the money to the DNC, what they would fund separately, how they would raise the money. She would be able to move in right away.
Have any of the potential contenders gotten in trouble for leaning a little too far forward?
Well, there was a fundraising text that went out from Gretchen Whitmer's PAC, her political action committee, on Friday evening that was flagged to me by a number of people who work for other people who might want to be president in this situation, or at least the nominee. Whitmer's folks had scheduled that email before Thursday. It's the end of the fundraising quarter on June 30th. So that's what was going on there. But no one who is involved thinks that there will be a benefit to being, let's say, the one who would step out and call for Joe Biden to go.
Jamie Raskin, Maryland Democrat, leading member of Congress, said over the weekend on TV that Democrats were having, quote, honest and serious conversations. From what you hear, what are those conversations like in the wider Democratic Party?
Those conversations are, can Donald Trump win over Joe Biden at this point? How much of a lost cause is Joe Biden, or is there a way to recover from this? Of course, this is a big election year with a lot on the line, and I should say those conversations got a little more heated on Monday after the Supreme Court case deciding that a president would have at least some immunity from prosecutions, saying this is even more cause why Democrats have to figure out how to stop Trump from getting back to the White House. To them, this decision makes all of the reasons why they were upset about Trump potentially coming back even in sharper relief.
Eventful summer. Edward Isaac DeVere, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Boston commuters are seeing a new feature on their trains, googly eyes.
I don't think I heard you right. Googly eyes?
Yes, you did. Big googly eyes, and that's because...
All right, enough of that. We see enough googly eyes when people be watching Trump. And what they in awe about, I have no idea, because he is not impressive at all. He's depressing. Oh my goodness. You heard it here first, folks. Y'all better start educating yourself with the news and what's going on in this country and the world, or you're going to be caught unaware like a thief in the night. This devil is trying to sink his teeth in each and every one of us. And as soon as he have us all in his grasp, that's when he bite. It's time to wake up, 99%. Time for us to stick together as working class people and support our interests, things that everyone wants. Good schools with up-to-date information for our children, programs to help those that need assistance, fair wages. Fair wages. You shouldn't be making millions of dollars and your employees are at the poverty level or just above the poverty level. That's ridiculous. But it's America. When are we going to say enough is enough, people? You see what they did in Kenya? Huh? Instead of fighting each other, we need to fight the ones that matter. Fight the ones that's doing these things. Not the one that you got to count on to pull you out the fire because it's your working brother that you have to count on. Not none of these politicians, not none of these business people, none of them is going to get out of their car to help you stranded on the side of the road. So why are you all on their jock like a little groupie? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You call yourself a man and you looking up to another man that's spitting in your face? Sad. So sad. Get it together, people.